All right. In three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Forever Young cast. I'm your host, Don Delarente, and I'm joined once again by my co hosts, Miss Jupiter Julep
Hello.
and Madam Lizette.
Hello.
How are you ladies doing?
Pretty
Well,
good.
Glad that y'all could join me again for episode 2. We had
oh, we're
very
happy to be here.
We had very
Right.
good response to episode 1. So hopefully episode 2 will be received just as well. You can find the Forever Young cast on the CSPN on the web at cspn.us. So ladies, we'll get right into it. As our first matchup, we have Deanna Perrazzo versus Priscilla Kelly. Now, Deanna Perrazzo, her story is last year she was an alternate and she did not get a chance to compete. So she was crushed and devastated. So this year has been a whole year of her just trying to work her way not only back into the Mae Young Classic, but also into the Performance Center, as now she is a part of NXT. And Priscilla Kelly's story is that she had a tough background growing up, tough child upbringing, and she kind of got into wrestling to show strength and ability that she could overcome no matter what her situation was. So Deanna Perrazzo hits a hip toss and a backflip into a drop kick that gets a 2 count. Priscilla Kelly fights back and hits the STO for a 2 count. Deanna Perrazzo hits a Russian leg sweep and she then transitions into the armbar and Priscilla Kelly taps out. So Jupiter Julep, I'll let you start off first. Your thoughts of this particular matchup between Deanna Perrazzo and Priscilla Kelly.
Okay. Well, the first thing I thought was when they showed Priscilla Kelly that she looked like what I would imagine if Paige and Elvira had a baby. So I mean, with the dark black teased hair and like really pale, really thin. That is what I thought of. Um, she had a good showing. She does a lot of acting with her face, which I thought was interesting, and it reminded me of the Undead Bride that I saw in Impact. Sorry I didn't catch her name, but it was. I'm sorry.
Sue Young is the Undead Bride's name in Impact.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you got it because I thought it was, but I wasn't sure, and I didn't have time to check. So, but it was something similar about the character work. I want to make a point here, if I can. And that is, I'm noticing that, with the exception of the black girls so far, the story has been I want to inspire someone, or I didn't get what I wanted, and so I'm going to get it now. Or except for the black girls who have so far been all suave and all pomp and circumstance and have all of the confidence, except for the tragic mulatto. Except for her, about about the adversity and all. And I'm wondering why they're all kind of going down that lane instead of telling a story or developing a character. And I started thinking about that during this matchup. Because when Deanna Prazo came out, the first thing I thought was she needs style. So I was really wanting her to show me something great. Because her look, she looked like every other white girl that they have signed or have had or have been in the Mae Young Classic or I've seen in Shimmer or other places. So I was looking for her to show me something that would make her stand out. And she had flashes of brilliance during this match, but then she would literally slow walk into the next move. And I wasn't sure if she was doing that because Priscilla Kelly was inexperienced and that was just her way of trying to adjust to her ring partner, or if she needs some work. So I can see that she's young. There's something there, but I wasn't really feeling it. And I'm glad this match was up first.
All right. Madam Lizette, your thoughts on the opening matchup between Deanna Perrazzo and Priscilla Kelly?
So the first thing I thought about Priscilla Kelly was like, oh, she's Paige, just younger. She gave me a lot of Paige vibes, and I'm okay with that. Deanna Perrazzo, I already know who she is because she's Marty Scurll's girlfriend. So I haven't seen a lot of her matches, but I had an idea of like what I was kind of going to expect. I do agree that it did feel like at moments she would take control of the match, and then all of a sudden she would like slow down and just kind of walk her way into the next move. So, and I was trying to figure out if that was her or if it was Priscilla. And I think it might have been Priscilla a little bit. And that could also be just their inexperience in the ring with each other. On top of the fact that Priscilla's just a little bit younger. But the match itself, it was okay. I'm happy Deonna won because I wanted her to win. I was cheering for her. I was rooting for her. But it didn't set the show up for me where I was like, oh, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. It's like, okay, well, if this is how you're starting this episode, do I need to be excited about anything else more? Because it was an okay match, but it wasn't like a good match or it wasn't a great match. It didn't have that same energy that Tegan's match had on episode 1. And so for me, it was like, run of the mill. It's all right. Let's move forward. Hopefully, if Deonna gets in the ring with someone else that's a little bit more experienced, she won't have those really fast but slow motions that she's having in this one. I did notice that Priscilla was really aggressive and that Deonna, what you could tell, is the more, I guess you would say, established wrestler. And then I also thought that Priscilla could get a little bit out of control at moments. And I was like, okay, you got to tone that down a little bit. But yeah, as far as that goes, that's how I felt about the match and about them.
All right. So Deonna Purrazzo moves on to round 2. Now, you're going to have to help me, ladies, with the pronunciation of this next luchadorus. Zuhus?
Zeusys?
Zeusys.
I think it's Zeusys.
Zeusys, okay, versus Ariel Monroe. Zeusys is a luchadora from Mexico, of course. So she talks about her, being able to compete and show off her, high flying style. And Ariel Monroe is known as Big Swole. She is also Cedric Alexander's wife, and she's also a veteran of the Air Force. So just a lot of confidence and charisma from Ariel Monroe. So Ariel Monroe cuts off the kicks, and then she hits a running uppercut. Monroe follows with kicks and covers for 2. Ariel Monroe hits the flatliner and charges, but Zeusys takes Monroe up top and hits the top rope Spanish fly, and Zeusys gets the win over Ariel Monroe. A lot of energy in this match. Ariel Monroe definitely had the crowd support on her side, but unfortunately, for the second week in a row, the black girl with all the charisma is on the losing end of the stick. So, Madame Lizette, your analysis on Ariel Monroe and Zeusys.
So I liked Ariel Monroe. I thought that she was a lot of fun, really energetic. She had a lot of confidence about her. I liked her hairstyle, I liked her look. I liked that Cedric and their daughter was out there watching and cheering. I thought that the match was a little clunky. I also feel like at one point Zeusys was almost forgot to kick out because she laid on the mat a little bit too long when they were doing the count, and I was like, oh Lord, not again. Like, it's gonna be Rhea Ripley all over again. I thought that the Spanish fly off the type rope was a great finish. I like Zeusys. I just found her to be a little sluggish. But I kind of want to see more of her because I can tell that she's a lot more established than Ariel Monroe, and that might be why it's just kind of Ariel's still kind of starting. Zeusys kind of knows where she is, and then meshing those styles together. Like, that's the one thing that I've noticed about watching the Mae Young Classic from last year to this year. The girls who've been doing this, the women who've been doing this for a while, once they get in the ring with each other, that clunkiness of the matches kind of goes away, and it gets a little bit more crisp. So I know that the first round or so is going to be a little like, I'm not too sure about that. And that's kind of how I felt about this one. It was just a little bit clunky for me. But outside of that, I enjoyed the match. I really wanted Ariel Monroe to win, and I thought she was going to, just with all the energy and everything she was giving us. But then as the match kind of kept going, I was like, oh no, you're taking this L. But outside of that, it was a good match.
All right, Jupiter Julep, your thoughts, things that stood out to you for this match?
Mm-hmm. As soon as she came out, or the music hit, and there were squeals and all of the hometown support, I knew she was going to lose because WWE loves to have you lose in your hometown. And when they showed that precious baby, and I was like, oh, she's gotta lose. I was like, that was just the worst. And at the end, when she was crying, I was like, oh, see, this is what they wanted AJ Styles' daughter to do instead of that heel turn. But
look, that poor baby was over there in tears.
Yeah. Like, how could this happen to my mama?
I was like, y'all didn't prep her for the L? Come on.
And I said, look at WWE scarring babies for life. Okay. So I knew she was going to lose. But one of the things that I liked about her was that she did have a lot of energy, but then I noticed that she had control, because there were some times where Zeusis did seem a little clunky, where Ariel Monroe just waited. Like, okay, come on and fall a little bit closer, and then I'm going to get you. And so in things like that, I liked, and I saw that she could definitely be a ring general in the future. And I will say that in this showing, I did feel like Ariel Monroe could take this loss because she's not going to win the Mae Young Classic, but she had a very good showing. So it's like, all right, I'm in my hometown. My baby cried. My husband was there. A lot of people were there, and I look good. You will see me again. Now, Zeusis, first of all, I looked away. The kids were crying. I came back, and I thought, Vicky Guerrero got a mask. I just, I thought, I was like, well, what is this? I did think so. Her features, and I was really looking at the mask because it was eye-catching. It was one of the most ornate, physical, full-face luchadora masks for a female that I've seen in a while. So I was really looking at it, but the features that you could see, I thought, Vicky Guerrero. And so if she would have said, excuse me, at any point of that match, I would have left. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that they advertised her to have strong style. And I'm not really, really familiar with strong style the way that you two are, but I was looking to see strikes. I was looking to see the things that I was more familiar with, or that I think of as strong style, and I didn't really see them. I did see a lot of power moves. I saw a lot of rest breaks. Like you said, the clunkiness or the sluggishness is a great way of putting it, because I wrote down the same thing. So I was really shocked when I saw that move, or that pinning combination where she did that fast slam into a bridging pin. And so I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Because everything else kind of belied that type of experience in the ring, which she did advertise, but we hadn't seen it for that until then. And then when she did the Spanish fly off of the top rope, I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't see it at any other point in the match. What I did see was a lot of good ring psychology and storytelling all the way through. Because even at the end, she was like, oh, yeah, I cried that your little girl lost. So I did find it entertaining, and I liked it. And I do want to see more of Zeusis. I think she's going to lose in the second round. But I'm all about Big Swole in the future.
I am too. And I wanted to add to you, Jupiter Julep, that I got the spacing thing too. Like, I wrote it down. I was like, spacing is off a bit. Like, I don't know what was going on with that, but she was either too close or too far. She was never in the right spot for Ariel Monroe to, like, keep the match going. And so it just felt like we were going through starts and stops, and then a finish. Right. And I was like, okay.
This is the Forever Young cast. I'm your host, Don Delarente. I'm joined by Jupiter Julep and Madam Lizette. You can find the Forever Young cast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play. We'll move into our next matchup, Kacy Catanzaro versus Reina Gonzalez. Kacy Catanzaro is the smallest competitor in the tournament, and she's also the first woman competitor to complete the final obstacle course on American Ninja Warrior. And Reina Gonzalez participated in last year's tournament. She's a second generation wrestler, and she's trying to redeem herself and go farther than she did last year. So Reina Gonzalez posts herself, and Casey follows with drop kicks. Casey trips her into the ropes, and the springboard drop kick connects, and the senton gets the 2 count. Casey then gets a cradle, and Casey Canizaro picks up the upset victory over Reina Gonzalez. So, Miss Jupiter Jula, what did you see in this matchup that stood out to you?
You know, the first thing I wrote down was, so this is the David versus Goliath matchup for this episode. I think they're probably going to space them out per episode, but this is the match. I'm familiar with Mighty Casey because I did watch American Ninja Warrior. I will say that one of the things that I wrote down was size and energy. She reminded me, and this is horrible that I keep calling her this, but the Tragic Mulatto of last week. The energy and the training and the technique, I would say, and the moveset, they will either have a great match against each other or they would be a very dynamic tag team. I was surprised to see how comfortable Casey looked in the ring. I was very surprised to see the consistency in their storytelling, where I decided I was going to do an experiment and push mute and just see if their movements could tell a story without Cole, Phoenix, and Young. And it did. And it told a very consistent story all of the way through, where you had Rhea Gonzalez, who was 6 foot and was brutal, but she was almost like playing with her food. And then you had Casey with all the heart, who wasn't going to give up and realized that she had to get smarter. And, you know, there was that botch thing where Casey moved and Rhea Gonzalez hit the ring post. And then that was the turnaround for the match. And they worked really, really well together. I mean, obviously there were some moves that Casey could not have done. It defied physics without Rhea Gonzalez folding herself to make those moves and those roll-ups look fantastic. So I give a lot of credit to Rena, excuse me. I do hope to see her more. I do believe that they said that she was the most improved from last year in her set, and I could see that. So I'm curious to see what she will do in the future. I did enjoy the match, and yeah.
All right, Madam Lizette, things that stood out to you between Casey Canizaro and Reina Gonzalez.
So Reina, when they showed her, I was like, wait, she was there last year. So I realized that she was very forgettable from last year. So this year felt like just like a new, fresh look on someone that I just, didn't pay that much attention to. Mm-hmm. And like Jupiter Julep said, you can, and like they said on the show, you can tell that she has improved from last year to this year. She really, I at first thought the match was going to be like a squash match, but when I realized that it wasn't going to go that way and how much she was like trying to put Casey over and help her in the ring and make Casey look even more powerful, even though she is of such a small stature, I was like, all right, girl, this will work. Like, you keep training and improving and getting better, you're going to be great in the ring, and you're going to learn how to kind of use your body to help the person that you're in the ring with, which is something that a lot of taller wrestlers, especially female wrestlers, have to kind of figure out. Like Charlotte wrestling Bayley or Charlotte wrestling Sasha, they're so much smaller than her, and she has to always kind of, corral her body around so that they can look powerful and strong when they're doing moves on her. And I think that she was doing a really good job of that with Casey. I thought Casey was quick and athletic, limited in some ways, but I also know this is probably like her first time really in a ring. So she can only get better. She was really smiley, so she would be a great baby face. She kind of, in thinking about it right now, she kind of reminds me of, what is her name from the Riot Squad? Oh, I can't think of it right now.
Ruby?
Liv Morgan. No, she kind of reminds me of Liv Morgan. Like, if she decided that she wanted to switch and go more heel, I feel like they might be a good tandem to have together at times too, because they're similar in stature. I know Liv is probably a little bit taller than her, but they have familiarities to me in their face and their body style and their shape and stuff. So I thought the match wasn't that bad. I also like the fact that at the end, Reina really like propped her up and was just like, no, give this girl her props. because I feel like that was, at first I was like, I'm not sure, because Reina was supposed to be the heel, but I know like once you take that L, you can either go back to the back and sulk, or you can put over your opponent so that they can, you know, look stronger going into the next round. And she really did a good job of like putting her over and just giving her props and saying, hey, Casey did something today and she proved herself today. And I liked how Reina was being the heel and saying, you know, this is my ring, this is my time. And, you know, really just working that up. So thinking about the match now after watching it and kind of reflecting over it, I think the match was a lot better than I thought when I first initially watched it. And I think that both of those girls will improve and get better. I don't see them going like to the semifinals or the finals, but I would like to see them on NXT, and maybe if they do Mae Young Classic next year, you know, do it again next year and see if we can get them going. So other than that, it was a pretty good match.
All right, so we'll move into our final match of the evening: Mercedes Martinez versus Ashley Rain. Now, Mercedes Martinez was a semifinalist last year. She lost to Shayna Baszler and went into the semifinal matchup. So she's here to try to get back to, you know, at least the semifinals or the finals this year. And Ashley Rain, also known as Madison Rain, is just living out her bucket list that she was on All In, Impact, and NXT all in the same week. So congrats to her. Ashley Rain cradles Mercedes Martinez for a 2 count. The enziguri follows from Ashley Rain, but Martinez cuts off Ashley with a knee strike, and the Fisherman Suplex gets the win for Mercedes Martinez. So, Madam Lizette, Mercedes Martinez is moving on. I know she was a fan favorite for a lot of people last year. What do you think about her initial effort in this year's Mae Young Classic?
So she was my fan favorite last year. So I was really excited when I saw that she was coming back. I like her overall. I like her personality. I like her style. I like that she has something to prove and she has that chip on her shoulder, because she's been wrestling for a while, and this isn't her only job. Like, she is a CSI agent and she just does a bunch of stuff. And they talked about that on the show. So I was really happy to see her in the ring again. I felt like this match needed some highs. It needed some speed. It needed something. I felt like it was something was missing from the match. And so for me, I was like, wow, this match is kind of sluggish. But I realized from last year, a lot of Mercedes matches were sluggish. She's not like a super high flyer and stuff like that. So she's more of like a ground game. And I was like, okay, get yourself ready and prepare for that when compared to other matches and other people that she's going to be in the ring with. So I was happy to see Ashley Rain. I still don't like her a lot. And this is the second time I've got to see her, because I watched her at All In and then I watched her here. And I'm still not the biggest fan of her. I don't know. She just doesn't do it for me. And the match itself didn't really like do it for me. I just felt like there was something missing. But I'm really happy that Mercedes Martinez is moving on, because she's one of my favorites. I'm kind of, sad that her next opponent, she's probably taking the L, but it's okay. Like, when they said who she was wrestling next, I was like, oh, girl, you're losing. It's all right, though. But outside of that, I'm happy that she came back. I'm happy that, she's moving forward. But the match itself, it just was missing something for me.
All right. This is Jupiter Julep. How'd you feel about Mercedes Martinez's effort in this one?
You know what? I echo a lot of what you said, Madame Lizette.
You have flashlight enabled. Do you want to open it?
No. Sorry about that. My echo is, I said it. I said her name. I'm not supposed to say her name. But it is, I really like Mercedes Martinez, and she was one of my picks last year to take it all. So I was sad to see her go to take the L to Shayna Baszler. But I will say that I knew the name Madison Rain, but I cannot say that I have seen any of her matches. So I was really curious to see what these two veterans could do and put together, and to see if Madison Rain had been, or Ashley Rain, excuse me, had been wrestling for 13 years. Why is this her first foray into the WWE? So I was just looking to see, well, what is it about her that made her get overlooked all these years? And so I was really surprised to see with the bump she took, the athleticism, when they did that. I don't even know what it's called. When Mercedes held her up I think I could count supercalifragilisticexpialidocious like 3 times for the time that she stood on her head before all the blood rushes until she took the suplex. And I was like, okay, so she can take bumps, she can go to the top rope, she can work. So what was it? And the only thing I could come up with was I don't know what she's like on the mic, or maybe Vince didn't think she was attractive. So I don't know. So now hearing you talk, Alyssa, I'm just thinking, what is missing? Because I mean, she had a really good effort against Mercedes. I knew Mercedes was going to move on. Mercedes to me should be that vet that they call in as a surprise entrance for the next female Royal Rumble. Or something along those lines where she can come in and work and maybe not be signed, because I do know that she has those 2 other jobs and, you know, other things that she does, but she loves it. But she's my Trish Stratus. Like, you see her, you pop, and you understand that she's got other stuff to do. So you're grateful for the time that she has. So I really look forward to see what she will put together with Meiko next week or the next round. And yeah. That's really all I can say. Unless you guys can tell me what is missing with Madison Rayne, or why wasn't she in the WWE?
Well, she was always an Impact she was part of the Knockouts forever. She's one of the original Knockouts, so she's always been under contract with TNA/Impact. So that's probably one of the big reasons why.
That's it. I mean, so was what was it? I was called K-Quick, Ron Killings, and so was Austin Creed, and it's like other people were there and left. So
it doesn't work the same for the women as it does for the men, because unfortunately the women only have a small window. When you're like, they probably had like a 5 to 7 year run over on Impact, and that's about what you get as far as think about Trish, think about Lita. They don't stay around for 15, 20 years, not the women. It's kind of not built like that for them, unfortunately. So once you've kind of had that exposure on one TV, it's kind of hard for you to come to a new TV and get an equal long run. I mean, look at Gail Kim. She, left WWE, went to Impact. She had about a 4 or 5 year run, and now she's retired.
And there's Tori, right? Victoria.
Right. So it's just not the lifespan, and you don't really get a lot of women who go from multiple organizations like that. They kind of get their one run where they start, and they kind of end there, and that's it. Anything you'd like to add to that, Madam Lizette?
I think you're right, and I don't see that changing. I also think that, like, after 7 years or so, a lot of these women decide, like, I want to raise my kids, or I want to have kids. And at that point, it's a little bit harder to get back into the ring after you've had a child and do that full time and be away from your child for, 300 some odd days of the year, because you're always traveling, you're always doing shows. And I also think just the way that women were wrestling back in the day and what they're doing now, you kind of got tired of being objectified too. And so you're just like, well, I don't really want to keep, being paraded out here like this. I think now I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte or Sasha and them have longer careers, especially Sasha and Bayley, because I mean, they're 23, 24 years old right now. So they started wrestling really early, while like Charlotte started wrestling closer to her 30s. So she's probably going to be like a Trish or a Lita and wrestle for 7 or 8 years. And then like, all right, I'm good. Or they'll be like a Nikki or a Brie who comes back for a couple of months at a time and then they leave. But I have realized, unless you kind of start in WWE as a woman and then go to TNA or something like that, if you've been at TNA for a long period of time, or if you've been on the independent circuit for a long period of time, 9 times out of 10, if you do make it into WWE, it's kind of like a one-off and you move on. I think it may change as the women's revolution or evolution continues to move forward and women's wrestling, grows and changes and adapts and they start doing more and everything. But I think Ashley Rayne, this was her moment, this was her time, and she took it. And TNA was like, that's cool, probably because she was doing All In and all of that. So like, whatever, girl. travel, do your thing, come back. So I'm happy that she got to be in a WWE ring and she checked that off of her list. But she's going back to TNA and she's going to keep doing her thing there.
So, I mean, to be clear, though, she's not on contract for TNA? Or is this a loan type of a deal? Like, okay, we loan you to like New Japan or ROH or All In or stuff like that.
I want to say she's still under contract with TNA, and that's why she had to use Ashley Rain instead of Madison Rain. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, you're right about that. She's an Impact property, but Impact has a deal where you can go appear on other people's events and television. They don't have it as ironclad as WWE, where it's like, nope, you can't perform on anybody else's TV but ours. They have it where that's the reason why Pentagon can be on Lucha Underground, MLW, Impact, and any AAA, all these different places he's wrestling, is because they don't have the exclusive type of contract like WWE has.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they like to share in like the indie circuit a lot more than WWE does.
Mm-hmm.
WWE is like, I think it's more so they're trying to protect their product. And so their whole thought process is, you get hurt somewhere else, that takes money out of my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to get hurt in the ring, it needs to be in my ring. While other indie promotions are just like, go, have fun, enjoy yourself, wrestle where you can. But when we need you, you need to be back here because we're the one that's paying you the biggest salary.
Right. So before we wrap this episode up, we're going to preview next week's matchups. So our first matchup is going to have Caitlyn, former WWE Diva, returning, versus Kavita Devi. We're going to have Toni Storm, my fave, versus Jenny. We're going to have Xia Li versus Karen Q. And we're going to have my second fave, Mia Yim versus Allison Kay. So I'll turn it over to Madame Lizette. Out of those 4 matchups, of those 8 women, a match or a competitor or two that you're looking forward to watching next week?
So I kind of want to see Caitlyn, because around the time that I started watching wrestling again was when she was feuding with, wow, I just drew a whole blank. And she left. So I want to see what she's like in the ring now.
Mm-hmm.
She looks different, and I know plastic surgery does that to you. So she looks a little different, but she kind of still looks the same. I like her with the darker hair. She seems really optimistic, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what she looks like now, especially since we're 6 or 7 years removed from when she left. I want to see Mia Yim. I like her. I liked her last year. I thought she did a good job. It's just, she had to take the L against Shayna Baszler. There's not much you can do about that. But I liked her last year, so I'm kind of excited to see what she's going to do this year. The rest of the girls, I don't think I've ever seen them wrestle, so I look forward to just like seeing new wrestlers in general, and then kind of writing those down. And of course, I love Toni Storm. I thought she did a great job last year, so I'm excited to see what she's going to do this year. I'm pretty sure they're aiming for her to be the women's NXT UK champion. So I don't know how far she's going to go in this, but I know that she's going to put on some pretty good matches.
All right, Jupiter Julep, same question to you. A match or a competitor or two that you're looking forward to seeing next week?
You know what? Madame Lizette and I, we're on the same page on that. The only thing that I will add about Toni Storm is I'm wondering if she will change character. Is she going to be the same tiny hat wearing Toni Storm, or is she going to come back as a more aggressive heel or something along those lines? So I'm interested to see how her ring skills and her character has progressed from last year to this year. And David, that is the signee from India, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I'm trying to say this as diplomatically as possible. She was trained by the great Khali. When I was familiar with the Great Khali, it was much later where it looked painful to see him walk. So I am very curious to see what she has picked up. I know that she's very tall. To see if she has grace in her limbs or if she will be very similar to the Great Khali. So I'm curious to see what she has. And I know that she's been working at the Performance Center with different coaches and different people. But I'm just curious, like, what do you have? And I would love to hear her talk. And I pray that they do not go the stereotypical route with her and make her a yogi or an exotic goddess or Princess Jasmine or whatever they can think of. And that's not even the same culture, but I don't think the WWE knows that. So I'm curious to see what they would do with her, and I hope they honor her.
I'm kind of feel the same way. Last year, I remember her match last year, and it was a little clunky.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now that she's had a year to be in a WWE training facility and around a bunch of different trainers and wrestlers and stuff like that, I hope that she is not so clunky and she's a little bit smoother. I mean, they straightened out Rhea Ripley and everything else, so I feel like they can kind of do the same thing with her and counter on her strengths. I just don't want her character to be like offensive.
Yes, Lord.
They are good for that.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to light a candle on that one.
Like they are so good for that. And on the Toni Storm thing, from watching Bracketology, she seems to be going more like rock star-esque with it. So I get like not so much of a heel, but like a face, but very just rock star and just over the moon and excited and smiley, but determined. They said that her whole family came to the UK show that they did. So I think that they're going to keep her in the face way, but she's not going to be out here with the top hat.
Yeah, so more of an edge. I do remember that. She was a little edgier. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that was week 2 and also a preview of week 3 of the Mae Young Classic. Once again, this has been the Forever Young cast. I'm your host, Don Delarente. I've been joined by Jupiter Julep and Madam Lizette. So, ladies, I'll turn it over to you for your shout-outs and thank yous. Jupiter Julep, I'll let you go first.
I have to give a shout-out to Anwar Starwind because he always gets shout-outs. That's a hat tip to DD as well. The 2 co-hosts, you guys are awesome. We play all the time when we chat. I appreciate that. My kids were being quiet, the ones that are here. My cat quiet, and the rest of the family. And man, I guess that's about it.
Okay.
For me, I want to say shout out to both of you guys, as well as my best friend and my sister for being quiet because I wasn't so sure. I was like, I need you to be quiet when you walk through these doors today, and she did a good job with that.
All right.
Look, because she's always turned. So I look forward to the next episode.
All right. I'd like to give a shout out to both my co-hosts here, Jupiter Julep and Madam Lizette. I just want to make sure that everybody goes and supports the podcast. Please head over to the Patreon page at patreon.com/CSPN Media. Go check out our exclusive content, become a patron. There are many tiers in which you can support. If you become a backstage member, which is the $3 tier or more, you gain exclusive access to all the exclusive podcasts from all of your favorite podcasters here on CSPN. So again, that's patreon.com/CSPN Media. So for Jupiter Julep and Madam Lizette, I'm Don Delarente, and this has been episode 2 of the Forever Young cast. Okay, ladies, thank you very much.
Hey, we were quick.
No problem, right? I was like, oh, we got time. Okay, so what happened? They started with the tag team match, but WWE didn't tell me if they won or not. So